Hello scrappy people, Iris here with a layout for the Color Cast Designs, and I'm also participating in Scrap Madness. That's a video a day series that Laura Alberts and Miranda Weber hosted in March, and I'm the guest today. I'll have information on their channels down in the description below. To begin, I pulled the Spark Joy and Me Time sets from Color Cast Designs March release. And I knew I wanted to do something about my love of organizing, especially in my crafty space. Am I right? Everyone just loves hanging out and playing with their products, and sometimes that playtime is best when you're just organizing. At least it is for me. I had quite a bit of photos. I wanted to make sure they fit, but I also didn't want to go with a grid style because I just did a grid traveler's notebook for my last project. And I didn't want just squares. So finally, I settled on hexagons. The Ali Edwards design kit, which is the, I guess technically April kit, had an add-on which were hexagons, and I thought they were a pretty good size, so I'm going to use them as a template. I printed my photos at just under 3 by 3, and I believe these hexagons measured around 2.8, 2.9. So that fits perfectly. This way I'm not cutting off too much from the photos, because originally I thought maybe I could do a pie chart sort of style, but then it was so hard to fit in where you have the skinny part of the pie. I just didn't want to cut too much off. Hexagons was the way to go. I will use the Ali hexagons just as a quick placement guide. And originally I'm going for sort of a diagonal approach with the title on the right hand side. I pulled tons of different products trying to see what I wanted to use with this. These patches are from the design kit from Ali Edwards. This is from Echo Park's I Love Crafting line. I just picked up a few papers when I was at the weekend crop at an actual scrapbook store. I also pulled Freckled Fawn little puffies and some papers from Felicity Jane and a few others. I like the sorbet colors the most, especially if you see my washi ring. So I was going to try to bring in more of those colors. The pink with a darker pink polka dot is from Felicity Jane, the latest kit Jamie. And then I thought I could use the backside as well with the little hearts. But then when I cut it and I put it together there, it's gonna seem too white on white. I already feel like some of the photos have enough white space. This piece here I got from my friend Simone at the crop. She was getting rid of stuff I took. I was getting rid of stuff a whole bunch of people took. And I think this one is Cocoa Daisy. I like that it had a whole bunch of different colors and they look like little hearts. So I cut 2 of those. I didn't use the actual hexagons from this Ali Edwards kit because most of them had words on them, and I knew that I would be using some of my Color Cast Design stuff with a lot of words. I didn't want competing. I always like grids. I tend to want to put something with grids on there. That's the back of a Studio Calico card. It's also too light, so it's not going to stay in. And then this yellow polka dot is from Chamel's latest line, Sparkle City. The Studio Calico grid was too light, but one of the Ali Edwards hexagons was a grid, and I decided to just use that one. Now I bring out some of the wood veneer that goes with the Color Cast Design acrylics, and putting them around, it feels a little too disorganized. Ironically, this is a layout about organizing. I'm not quite sure yet if I'm going to like this, but then I just try to pair it up with some of the other embellishments that I've pulled out. The Pink Fresh Studio buttons and the sheet from the Ali Edwards design kit. Then I have that one little washi that is from the Echo Park I Love Crafting line, and really I bought that sticker sheet just for that little washi. So like I said, I'm moving things around and I just can't seem to find spaces where things look like they're natural and it's not cluttered. I'm trying to put horizontal elements like the wood veneer words and the chipboard tabs along areas in the photos that have more white space. So I move the photos around a little bit to see if just having them placed in different spots opens up areas where the embellishments seem to work better. You can see now that I moved the photo with the roller stamps up above. everything's starting to look like it's a horizontal band. So I'm toying with the idea of putting something at the bottom of the layout with the labels and some chipboard. I didn't get very far in that experimentation though, because then it felt like an afterthought. As I was looking at things, my brain was thinking, okay, maybe more labels, or I could even add strips of paper down there. But there's something about the subject of organizing. I wanted to keep this somewhat more clean, clear cut. I don't want to say clean and simple so much because I don't really identify with clean and simple, but I didn't want to add a whole bunch of paper layers or frills. So I'm going to take most things off the layout and I'm going to start over. For the new configuration, I'm actually going to do something that I've done before but on a bigger scale with a cut file. Having the title in the middle and surrounding it with hexagons. Last time I did that, I had 3 photos and 3 pattern papers. This time I have 6 photos, and I thought it was going to look very boring if I just had one thing in the middle that was pattern paper and then all the photos. I'm going to address that by putting more of the hexagons on the outside portion of the photo so that it no longer has like a circular configuration. Those hexagons are technically like the opposites of each other, but I'm also going to decorate so that it looks more asymmetric. No mirror imaging of anything. My first inclination was to once again distribute the wood veneer phrases throughout different areas that had like white space. And then I realized I'm going to get that cluttered look again. So I decided to group the 3 wood veneer that matched together. They came in the Spark Joy set, the Purge, Declutter, and Donate. I'm going to put them on the grid, which I think is a nice touch. I like the aesthetic of lining those wood veneer on there. And I'm going to have the other wood veneer that I've chosen in strategic spots. The one that says all the things is actually meant to go under organize. It fits really nicely. And then my happy place, I'm going to put down below with the little washi embellishment because that area is kind of empty and I will be filling the other 2 empty spots with some journaling. So you've been watching me take things apart again so that I could glue things down. I wasn't too bothered about making sure the spacing is perfect on the hexagons. It's not going to be because I did hand cut them. Even if I was using the template, you know it's not going to be precise. But also I think that it's nice to have that handmade sort of feel because this is about my hobby and a lot of the stuff that I do is handmade. The only thing I was worried about was the 2 side hexagons looking really wonky. So I did pull out my T-square and just made sure that the side points of the hexagons were roughly lined up. At this point, I finally realized that I had never taken off the branding strip from the cardstock. This is a basil cardstock. It's corduroy texture. And it's one of my absolute favorites. I'm not sure if it's sold anymore, but I've searched on scrapbook.com before and been successful in finding it. It's got an embossed line, almost like pinstripes, straight across, and I've always preferred that to, say, the basket weave or the crosshatch type of textures that seem to be what most textured cardstock have. Oh, and by the way, this is eggshell, so it's not a super gray or bluish white. It's a nice creamy white. So early on, I had chosen that little patch that says by design. That's from the Ali Edwards Design Story Kit. I'd say that's a tab or a flag type shape. I like that the rounded corners at the top break the sharp corners of the hexagons and that it's different from the straight rectangles of the wood veneer. To add interest, some of my embellishments line up, some don't, some are clustered on top of each other, some are side by side, and I overlap across the edges of the hexagon. Now I'm going to fast forward. I did messy stitching around each hexagon a couple times around to add to the handmade effect and to just add texture. Plus, I think it's been several layouts since I did some stitching. And my footage just wasn't very good. My hand was in the way most of the time. If you want to see machine stitching in action, I'll have a link pop up to a layout that I did earlier this year that had messy stitching round and round some circles. So I'm getting all the little bits back in place, and then I'm going to do my journaling. I printed this on very heavy vellum. It's 40 weight vellum on my Epson PM 400. And I didn't have to stick it on a piece of paper or anything. I cut it to 3x4 size and ran it straight through. I actually have a couple things to say about vellum and printing on it. And I've seen questions in Facebook groups, and I had someone in person ask me about it. So there are different weights of vellum, and it does make a difference which one you use. If you have a thinner vellum, if there's ink on it, it's going to want to curl. And also that would affect the ability of it to run straight through a printer. The printers won't really grab the thinner one, and it might get caught or move around. As for smearing issues when you're printing, if you can lower the quality to normal or maybe even draft, that's much better because less ink will be going onto the surface and it'll dry faster, won't smear as it's going through with the rollers. If you don't have the ability to change the quality, like say when you're printing directly from your phone, and it doesn't give you any of those options, the other thing you can do is change your journaling from black to gray. That will be putting less pigment onto your surface as well, which will help with the smearing and any curling issues. So with my journaling, I didn't want to start it at the top left and continue it at the bottom right on the same kind of paper. That's why I put my little cluster of embellishments down there and put the rest of my journaling at the far right. Time to add some color to that background. I'm using the Mr. Huey's in Pinstripe, and it's like a nice gray. I just want to do some splatters to fill in the white spaces and give it more interest. I'm all about adding different things to add interest. Then I'm going to add some cute little staples with the tiny attacher. Now what I'm going to do is take that badge and the puffy stickers, just take them off the background, staple them, and put them back on. You don't even know that it's not going through the whole entire page. But I do actually have a tutorial on how you can open the tiny attacher up and staple anywhere within your project. That link should be popping up right here so you can take a look if you don't know how to do that. It's really handy. I just didn't bother this time because I knew I could pop up the embellishments, and the other areas where I want to put the staples I had easy access to. We're nearing the end. I'm about to slow it down so I can show you all the details in real time and get a sense for the depth of everything. I always like to do that, and anything that shines or shimmers. But this is a little premature because then I decide to add a date, and I realize that I smeared a little bit of the splatters. So I'm going to come back and show you that little bit. I pulled a couple of gray ink pads. This one's my favorite things in steel gray, but it was tinted a little bit bluer than what I wanted, so I ended up using the Studio Calico in Clean Slate with my Felicity Jane roller stamp. I've been using this one a lot lately because the numbers are slightly smaller than the normal sized ones, and smaller is just cuter. This is my favorite gray pen. It's the Staedtler Tri-Plus Fine Liner, and the gray has just the perfect neutral color. So here I'm showing you where I think my thumb smeared the splatters and it was bothering me. I take my white Sakura Jelly Roll and I go over the smears almost like I'm using whiteout. This is my second favorite pen. My favorite one is actually the Uniball Signo, but it's also my artistic daughter's favorite too. And I think she took my last one and she goes through them really fast. So I need to order more. I'll pop up a photo of the before with the smear and the after. Now it does look a little bumpy, but once you get into the page protector, you can't tell at all. It's a handy trick for boo-boos on white cardstock. Here are the still photos. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget this is part of the Scrap Madness with Laura Alberts and Miranda Weber. All the links to their channels are down below. Go check them out, subscribe. They have some wonderful content. They did one video a day for March. I don't know how the heck they do that. I can barely keep up with 1 or 2 a week. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Thanks everyone. I will see you here next time.